It's a funny thing. You start a new practice like meditation, you're hoping for a little more calm in your life. But instead, you find yourself feeling more irritable than ever. It sounds totally backward, right? Well, it turns out this really frustrating experience is a surprisingly common and actually a really important part of the whole process. So let's get into why that is. Does this sound familiar to you? You finally carve out some time to sit quietly, you're looking for just a little bit of peace, and bam, your mind just floods with frustration and annoyance. If that's you, I want you to know you are definitely not alone. And there's a really fascinating reason why it's happening. All right, so here's our game plan for this. First, we're going to look at this really unexpected side effect and why it's not what you think. Then we'll dig into a core principle for handling emotions, learn a super simple technique to greet them, and finally, we'll talk about how to manage all this in the real world, with other people. So first up, this totally bizarre side effect. You're literally doing something to become calmer, but it feels like it's backfiring completely. What on earth is going on? Okay, first things first. You are not imagining this. That feeling of being more on edge or just more easily annoyed after you start meditating, it's real. And even though it can feel super discouraging, believe it or not, it's actually a sign that your practice is starting to do some really deep work. Okay, so here is the big plot twist. Your practice isn't creating this irritation. I want you to think of it more like a flashlight. It's like you've walked into a dark room, and for the first time, you flick the light on, and now you can see what's been hiding in there the whole time. Yep, that irritation, that anger, it's been simmering under the surface, maybe for years. See, we get so good at distracting ourselves or just pushing it all down, but when you finally get quiet, there's nowhere left for it to hide. It just bubbles right up to the surface. So you're not actually getting angrier. You're just finally meeting the anger that's been living inside you all along. And this right here, this shows the huge shift in how we're relating to our feelings. Our normal gut reaction is to resist, to push that irritation away. But that's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. You know what happens, right? It just traps it with more and more pressure. The new approach, the one your practice is teaching you, is to just let the ball come up to the surface, to simply acknowledge the feeling. That is the only way it can finally be released. Now, this idea of just watching our feelings, it isn't some new age self-help trick. It's actually a core principle that's rooted in some really ancient wisdom. So let's take a look at the philosophy behind it. So in Buddhist philosophy, this all ties back to what's called the First Noble Truth, or dukkha sacca. And it basically acknowledges that difficult experiences, like irritation, are just a normal part of life. They are not a sign that you're doing something wrong. And here is the absolutely crucial part. The instruction isn't to get rid of them, it's to understand them. So the goal isn't to destroy the feeling, right? The actual job is simply to know it. In Thai, this is called gamnot ru. It just means seeing it clearly, observing, oh, okay, this is irritation, without adding a whole story to it, like I shouldn't be feeling this, or this is ruining my whole meditation session. And here's the trap that we fall into constantly. The second we think, I hate this irritation, just make it stop, well, we've started resisting. That resistance, that craving for a different feeling, that's called samadaya. And it's identified as the actual root of our suffering. So think about it. By fighting the irritation, we are literally creating more suffering for ourselves. Okay, so this is all great in theory, but what do you actually do in that moment when a wave of irritation just hits you? Well, here is a really simple two-step technique.
Our source for this calls it a two-pill method. I kind of like that. So the first pill is all about stabilizing your mind. Before you face a difficult emotion, you connect with something positive. In this tradition, that means recalling the qualities of the Buddha, the teachings, and the community. It's kind of like putting on a life jacket before you dive into a choppy wave. Once you feel that stable foundation, then you take the second pill. You turn and you greet the emotion.
So how do you greet an emotion? It sounds a bit strange, but the term in Thai is tak arom, and it's incredibly simple. You just state the fact in your own mind with zero judgment. This is irritation, or irritation is happening in the mind right now. See, by just naming it plainly, you create this little bit of space. You become the one who is observing it. You are not the irritation itself. Okay, now for a super important real-world question. This is all well and good when you're sitting by yourself on a cushion, but what happens when all this irritation that you've dug up starts leaking out onto your partner, or your kids, or your coworkers? To get this, we can think of our whole being, our mind, our body, as a kind of system. In Buddhism, this is referred to as the khandhas. Now this system has inputs, and it has outputs. So if you spent years putting in and storing up irritation, that energy has to go somewhere. It doesn't just evaporate. It's going to be released through that same system, and sometimes that looks like a sharp word or an impatient action.
And you have to remember, this is training. You're learning a brand new skill here for how to relate to your mind. I mean, you wouldn't expect to be a perfect piano player on day one, would you? So you have to be kind to yourself. There will absolutely be times when a snarky comment just slips out before you even have a chance to notice the irritation that caused it. It happens.
So what's the best way to handle this? The advice we get is both really direct and really kind. Just be honest. Let the people in your life know what's up. You could say something like, hey, I'm doing this new practice, and it's bringing up some old stuff, so I might be a little on edge lately. I'm working on it, and I'd really appreciate your patience with me. If you remember just one thing from all of this, please let it be this. Seeing these difficult emotions surface is not a sign that you're failing. It's actually the proof that your practice is working. You are finally opening the door and letting all the dusty, stored-up stuff out into the light so it can finally be cleared away. You're not falling apart. You're just cleaning house.
So let me just leave you with this thought to chew on. What if you just reframe this entire experience? What if that flash of irritation you feel isn't some frustrating setback, but the actual proof that you are finally truly beginning to heal?